Good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. 2022 is ticking away, but we still have a jam-packed month of live events coming your way. In fact, if you head over to the website, exploringbytheseat.com, you can find all the live events that we have coming up, including a really cool live series, Unlocking the Secrets of the Human Body. So talking to researchers and scientists who are looking for cures to diseases and different illnesses. We have a ton of really cool live events from the field. Later this afternoon, we'll be live in Antarctica with the Delhi Penguins. We'll also visit the Toucan Rescue Ranch. We'll head live to Nicaragua tomorrow for some sea turtles, release some sea turtles that have been hatched. So that should be really, really cool. But December, we always spend a little time celebrating big cats. So we talk to scientists, to explorers, to filmmakers, to conservationists who are protecting big cats across the Americas, Africa, and into places like Indonesia and India as well, so into Asia. Today, we have a great speaker joining us. We have Laly Lichtenfeld joining us. She's a National Geographic Explorer and co-founder of African People and Wildlife. She empowers rural communities to conserve and benefit from their surrounding wildlife and natural resources. She's a 20-year resident of Tanzania, and she specializes in holistic landscape-level approaches to conservation and community development. So as one of the few female CEOs in East African conservation, she's very passionate about elevating rural women as environmental leaders and drivers of social change in their communities. So I'm going to bring Laly in live with us right now. Hey, Laly, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you, Joe?
I'm good. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you.
We've got a great group of classrooms hanging out with us. And I should just add a little note that you were saying there might be a little thunderstorm coming in the background. We're going to cross our fingers the power cooperates with us today.
Yeah. If you hear a little rumbling in the background. But we're so excited to be getting some rain in Tanzania. We're just coming out of a very bad drought. So this really is a blessing.
All right. Excellent. Well, I'm going to let you take over for a little bit. I'll probably pull a little Kahoot quiz together in the background as well. So we'll get the students interacting a bit and test their knowledge. But for now, I'm going to let you take over.
Okay. Thanks so much, Joe. I'm going to pull up some slides here. Hi, everybody. And see if hopefully you can see my screen in a minute. There we go. There we go. Hopefully you can see that. So again, I am the co-founder and CEO of an organization called African People and Wildlife. We are based in Tanzania, and we are working to find the balance for communities and nature. And we'll talk a little bit about an example of balance today with the story of lions and people here in Tanzania. But before we do that, I wanted to kind of zoom over to the African continent and let you know where we are and where we're doing our work. So let's zoom over from North America here and over to the African continent. And shortly you should see Tanzania now coming up, and that red pop-up is our environmental center where my team is based. So let's zoom down there and have a look. We're right on the edge of Tarangire National Park, which you see on the left, and in a beautiful place called the Maasai Steps. If we go down to our environmental center, you can see some of the buildings there down on the ground. And if we situate ourselves, we're in northern Tanzania, and right up on the top right of the screen there, that's Mount Kilimanjaro, Africa's largest freestanding mountain, more than 19,000 feet. Absolutely beautiful. And to its left is just a slightly smaller mountain called Mount Meru. So we live in a beautiful part of the world here in Tanzania. And so if we take a look at the map, then again, my team is working in a lot of places in northern Tanzania and starting to expand as well. But today, we're just going to focus down on this area. This is the Tarangire Manyara ecosystem. Again, that's where you saw our environmental center is based. And we're just going to talk about preventing conflict between people and lions in this ecosystem. So for me, as a young person who wanted to explore, lions were super exciting. They are one of the world's only truly social cat, living in pride. So the females living together with their sisters and aunts and their cubs, and the young males, and then often either one male that's dominating the pride or coalitions of males, often between 2 and 5. So really working together to protect their territory, to hunt together, and to raise their offspring. And I, as a young person, always wanted to see a lion. So here I am years ago at the bus stop, sitting on a statue of lion, dreaming of the day when I might get to see one. And so when I was a teenager, I was fortunate to go to Kenya for the summer, and to see my first wild lion and hear them roar, and the real sound of wild Africa. So exciting. And it just got under my skin. I just loved everything that I experienced in Kenya, the people, the geography, the wildlife. And so for me, it was an easy decision to become a conservationist. And that's pretty much what I've pursued all of my life. So after that first trip to Kenya, when I was in college, I went to the University of Richmond. I studied ecology. And when I graduated from college, I was lucky to get a scholarship in southern Kenya. And I went there and I spent actually a year and a half, so more than several months, a year and a half in southern Kenya doing research. I traveled into Tanzania. And again, my curiosity really was about all the wildlife. So there's a lot of amazing animals. Here are some of the ones you might know more commonly, except perhaps maybe the one in the upper right corner. That's the fringe-eared oryx, and they're a very special antelope that we have here in northern Tanzania and other parts of Kenya. So I was really excited just about, what a center of large mammal biodiversity we have here in Tanzania. Just super excited about that, but then also about the people. Just really enjoyed meeting and working with so many diverse people, working with children, with women, with men, and focusing on reasons why communities, people living around some of the national parks and protected areas of Tanzania, why would they be invested in conservation? What's interesting about it to them? How does it help them? And really start to develop solutions to protecting the environment that incorporate the local voice. And so that's really what we do at African People and Wildlife. And so we do a lot of different things. We have a lot of different programs and different species that we're working on. But again, this is Big Cat Month, and big cats is where it all started for us at African People and Wildlife, and really looking at the conflict between lions and people. And that really revolves around the cows. So lions are opportunistic. They're going to go after whatever prey species they can find. And sometimes that means it's easier to attack somebody's cows than it is to hunt down a buffalo or an eland or a zebra. And so at African People and Wildlife, we really recognized, after talking with a lot of people in the surrounding communities, that if they wanted to, did they want to live with lions? And the answer was yes. But did they want lions eating their cattle every day? Absolutely not. For the Maasai people, which are one of the groups of people we work with, cattle are important not only as an economic resource and a food resource, but also culturally. They're just important to who people are as individuals. And so while they wanted to see lions exist in the ecosystem, they didn't want them eating their cattle every night. And so we came together with the communities and came up in 2008 with a really exciting solution called the Living Wall. And this is an example of one, and you can see in the background, there's Mount Kilimanjaro, that beautiful 19,000 plus foot mountain. But a living wall is an environmentally friendly, predator-proof corral. And you can see there the growing trees. We use a number of different species, primarily Commiphora africana and others. And so you can see the trees growing there. And those trees are supporting that chain link fencing. And so when people bring their livestock in every night, they'll bring them back home and they'll corral them like you see here. What this does is it protects the livestock at night, and they are 99% successful in not only preventing attacks by lions, but they prevent attacks by leopard and hyena. jackals and some other smaller species that we have. So tremendously successful. The idea itself came from the local Maasai people. They were the ones who came up with the idea of planting the tree as a living wall and then attaching the chain link fencing to it. So a locally derived solution. There's more than 1,700 of these across northern Tanzania now. And as a result, we've been able to see that conflict, the lions taking people's cows is going way down and the numbers of lions are coming back. So it's a sustainable solution. It's a win-win for people, wildlife, and also a third win for the environment because we're planting trees and we've planted hundreds of thousands of trees for this initiative. So this is a bit of a closer look. This was me in the early days when we were still testing out the idea. We have an incredible team of people that install living walls in partnership with livestock owners now. And there's just a close-up of that chain link and the comifera coming through. And I was going to ask Joe if he can play a video for us that gives you an introduction to someone that has a living wall and how she feels about it and how it's been helping her today.
Mimi kwa jina naitwa Ngweje Mbilika Moli, naishi Mairowa, Engare Neighbor. Mimi ni mfugaji na ni mkulima. Wakati kabla ya ukuta, maisha yangu ilikuwa sio nzuri kabisa. Sababu ukiangalia kwenye hii eneo ya kwetu ni pori upande wa korongo. Huku ni korongo ambao wakati nilipoingia boma hii kuhamia hapa, hali ilikuwa ni mbaya kuhusu wanyama wa kuharibu mifugo yangu. Nilipopata hii ukuta nimefaidika sana. Sijawahi kupata tena hiyo janga ambayo wanyama walikuwa wanarukia ndani ya zizi la mbuzi, wanashika mbuzi, wanakula.
Okay, I think I'm back. Can you hear me?
We gotcha. Yeah, we can hear you, Laly.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Okay, so that's just to give you an insight into how some of the people feel about having living walls, how much they're helping them. And these are some of the gentlemen and what we call warriors for wildlife or human-wildlife coexistence officers. These individuals are collecting information about where the pig cats are roaming in the communal areas. They're keeping information about conflict. We have one of the largest databases on human carnivore conflict in East Africa. They're collecting it all on smartphones that link up to the cloud to an Esri database. So very exciting use of technology. to ensure that we can be as aware of what conflicts are happening across northern Tanzania as possible. And the communities that have this program also have access to their own data, so they can be looking at it and understanding where the conflicts are that are arising. So there's more than, well, there's about 100 of these individuals across northern Tanzania, and there's about to be quite a few more. So very exciting to see local community members participating in conservation, collecting information, using technology, and again, helping their own communities to solve conflicts with big cats. And then, of course, there's other ways that we can also monitor the presence of big cats. This is Janet. She's putting out some trail cams, or remotely triggered cameras that will take pictures anytime an animal moves by. And I wanted to show you really exciting. This is a lioness, and she actually had 2 cubs, but there's 1 cub now pictured, taken near our environmental center just at the beginning of last month. So this is probably just about the first time this lioness took her cubs out. She might have been moving them from one spot where she had them hidden to another. It's likely that she hasn't even introduced them to the pride yet, because when they're under 6 weeks of age, she's going to keep them nestled away. She's going to be nursing them, keep them tucked away during the days and when she's out hunting. And then when she feels ready, she will bring them out and introduce them to the pride. But very exciting to see the next generation of cubs being born out on the Maasai Steppe or outside of Tarangire National Park. And of course, the next generation is so critical. So just like you all are learning in school and learning about conservation and the environment and all sorts of interesting projects around the world, we're working with local students around the national parks to get them excited and interested in conservation. And for so many of these kids, they live right around the borders of these national parks, but they don't have the opportunity to go in them. They're hard to access. It's hard to find vehicles and the ability to go in with the resources. So one of the things that we do is take kids into national parks. And here they're actually, if you see on the left-hand side, that's actually a herd of elephants. So they're watching them. And so it's very exciting to be able to take the kids into the parks and learn about the behavior of these animals. We learn a lot about the wetlands, the ecosystems, the savannas as we go. And all these kids are members of wildlife clubs. They participate in environmental camps at our environmental center. And some of the kids who do really well in school have the opportunity to compete for 6-year scholarships to what you all would call high school, what we call secondary school. And so through all of this work and years of working with students, we have now young biologists coming up in the ranks, like Hussein Maricha, who got excited about the work, again, by just hearing about it, like you're all hearing today, touched him somehow, and he is on his way to becoming an animal biologist. So I hope that through exposure to projects like ours and many others, something gets you excited and inspired and helps you to think about what you might want to do one day and what kind of change you would like to see in the world. Because my team has shown that by really being dedicated and passionate and excited about conservation and really learning from the local point of view, we've been successful at conserving lions. This is a 4-month-old cub in Tarangire National Park that's seeing a brighter future because there are less conflicts, less reasons why people might want to kill a lion like this outside of Tarangire National Park today than perhaps 10 years ago. And the population is increasing. So we've been able to reverse a declining population of lions, bring it back, see it grow in a way that also works for the local people living among them. And for us, that's really how we find balance for people and nature. And so with that, I'm going to stop here and open it up so we can have a conversation, and perhaps there are some questions about the work that we do.
All right. Excellent. Laly, thank you so much for a great presentation, and of course for all the work you're doing. And I especially love what you wrapped up with is talking about the future and how young conservationists trained right from the community and excited to get out and study and research and find ways to help wildlife and humans coexist together. It's awesome. Very cool. So we are going to switch over to a little Q&A action, but before we do, we're going to play a little Kahoot together. So while Laly was presenting, I pulled together just a small quiz, a few true and false, a few multiple choice. So I'm going to share a banner here. If you go to kahoot.it, it's going to ask you for a PIN number, and I have that PIN number right there, 800-7107. But I'm going to share my screen as well. So that's all going to come up here shortly. So let's get that there. All right, so there it is. If you have one-to-one technology at your desk, then of course you can join right there. If not, your teacher can load it up at the front of the room and you guys can shout out your answers to him or her. If you have a smartphone or tablet, scan that QR code and it will bring you right in. And then the plan for today, 4 questions, 2 true and false, 2 multiple choice. You have 20 seconds for each question. If you get that answer correct, you are going to get points. If you do it really quickly, you'll get even more points. But if you pop in a wrong answer, but you do it really, really, really fast, we got nothing for you. You got to get that answer correct. And the quicker you do it, the more points you're going to get. So we'll give a few moments for some classroom groups to join or for some of the individual students. And then we will get going live and see who finishes on our podium. We have our auto-generated animal names today. So we've got the noble camel, the royal meerkat. No big cats yet. We'll see if we get a big cat person in here, but it's auto. Oh, there we go. We got a bobcat.
Lively bobcat.
Bigger.
There we go.
Getting a bit bigger. Maybe 30 more seconds, and then I will take us live, and we'll see which classroom or which student comes out on top. I already see some questions coming in the YouTube chat, so don't be shy. Get a few questions in there, and then of course we'll bring in our camera classrooms when the time comes as well. Couple more groups popping in.
Creative lion.
There we go. We've got our big cat. We've got a lion. Very cool. Okay, let's get going. Oh, a few more. Oh, a leopard. There we go. A few more students sneaking in.
Yeah. Who doesn't love a cheerful puffin?
All right. Very, very cool. Okay, here we go. So like I said, 20 seconds for each question. And we got a 3-second count in and we are live. All right, our first question. Laly is joining us from Kenya, Botswana, Tanzania, or South Africa. So a nice warm-up question here. Where in Africa is Laly joining us from? Kenya, Botswana, Tanzania, or South Africa? All right, good job, crew. Most went with Tanzania. Absolutely correct. How is it sounding over there? Is the storm still rolling in?
It seems like it's quieting down a little bit, so that's good. Thank you all for recognizing Tanzania. A lot of people often think Kilimanjaro is in Kenya, but a little fun fact, Mount Kilimanjaro is indeed all in Tanzania. All
right, so our super dog is holding down that top spot, but it is close. Let's jump to a little true and false question here. Lions are the world's only truly social cats. Is that true or is that false? Got a few more seconds on there. Truly social cats. So spending all that time together, cooperating, hunting. Oh, we had a little mix there, but the true, as we did learn, is that, and obviously Laly can speak to this a little bit more, but you know, cats may be social for different times in their lives, but they do spend a lot of time solitary.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's a couple of different species that we're learning are a bit more social than people thought. There's some interesting work coming out on mountain lions, sharing kills together at times. Cheetahs, the brothers, are often social and hang out together. But the lion is the only cat today that we know of where both the females and the males spend time together and work together as an entire unit.
All right, let's see how that shook up our leaderboard. Did not fool Super Dog. They're holding down that top spot. The creative lion is sneaking into the top 5. Let's see if we mount a comeback. Okay, people in Tanzania don't want to live with lions. Is that true or is that false? They don't want them around. They don't want to live with them. Get those lions out of there. Is that true or is that false? All right, so we do know that's false. I think that's a really great thing that you hear. We do a lot of events with conservationists around the world, and you hear from local communities everywhere is that they're proud of their wildlife. They want it around. They just need to find that right balance where it's safe for the wildlife and safe for people and their way of living.
Absolutely. I mean, it's tremendous. People are living here with very large and potentially dangerous animals, and the tolerance that they still have for them, the knowledge of how to live with them still exists. It's quite amazing. And they're not only proud just to have these animals in the environments, but of course in Tanzania, it's a huge part of their tourism industry as well. And there's a lot of effort to help communities around these protected areas benefit a little bit more from the wildlife that they're protecting.
All right. Not a lot of movement. Superdog holding down that spot. We've got one last multiple choice question to take us to our Q&A session about how many living walls has Laly's team helped build. Was it 300, 1,000, 1,700, or 2,000? About how many of those bomas, those living walls, has Laly's team helped to build? All right, good job, crew. Most went with about 1,700. We're going to take a look at our final podium now. In third place, we've got the Snowy Crane. Ooh. In second place, the Cheerful Puffin.
Cheerful Puffin moved up.
And we're going to end things off. The Super Dog grabbed it in question 2 and did not let go. All right. Very
Good job.
Well, as per usual, thanks everyone for playing along with us. I'm going to come back from that screen share now, and we're going to switch to a little Q&A action. So let's get rid of that banner. I see some questions coming in via the chat already, but let's, where should we go first? Let's go to Miss Benoit's crew. They are in Ontario, here in Canada. Here they are, front and center. How are we doing, everyone?
Hi.
Do male lions try to eat their babies if there are boys, or do they try to eat the girls?
That's a really good question. So if the male lion is the father of the cubs, he does not want to eat the females or the males. But sometimes what happens is the male lions can only hold on to their pride for maybe a couple of years. It's a lot of hard work. And so sometimes what will happen is that they have babies, but then other big male lions come along and they push those incumbent, those males that are already taking care of the pride, they push them out, they fight with them, and they take over the pride. If the cubs are very young at that point, unfortunately, the male lion, the new male lion, can kill both the female and the male cubs, because what he wants to do is he wants to have his own cubs as quickly as possible. And so if he's able to kill those cubs, the female says, uh-oh, I need to have more cubs. And so she gets together with the new lion, and that's how it happens. So it's tough for those females if there's a takeover at that time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great question.
All right. Great question. So we're going to come back. So get another question ready for us. We'll be back soon. This is from online. Mr. Hergott's crew is wondering about those scholarships. Is that the only way to get into secondary school, or can students get in other ways?
Yeah, great question. So in Tanzania, the public secondary schools are available for kids. They have to do well on their exam scores, but they can go on to public secondary schools. They may have to pay a little bit for school fees and uniforms, but not a terrible amount, but still a challenge for many families. Mm-hmm. What we do as an organization is we offer scholarships to secondary private schools. So these are a little bit different schools. They're a little bit elevated. We separate. The girls go to an all-girls school and the boys go to a mixed school. And we make sure that if we commit to them, they can go through all 6 years. And now we even have kids that we're giving scholarships to, and they're in college. So we aim to help these kids get as far as they can in their education.
All right. Awesome stuff. Who should we go to next? So Mrs. Kirk's grade 6s are hanging out with us. They're hanging out virtually, but we'll bring Mrs. Kirk in because I bet she's got a question there for us.
Yes, thanks. Danica was asking that after seeing the photo of the elephant, they read an article about elephants losing trunks and more elephants being born without defenses. Is that true? And how are they evolving to support themselves if that is actually factual?
It is true that elephants can lose their trunks, both naturally, if they're at a water hole and unfortunately a crocodile surprises them. I saw that recently had happened. But then unfortunately with snaring as well. So in some places, people put out wire snares to catch wildlife, to catch small antelopes, for instance. If an elephant gets themselves caught in that snare, that could also be a way to lose a trunk. So there are a lot of challenges that elephants are facing, particularly because of the poaching for their ivory. And so we also are seeing in certain areas that more and more elephants are being born what we call tuskless, without those tusks. And so that's kind of something genetically that's being passed down because people are killing elephants because of their tusks. So if they don't have tusks, then there's no need to poach them. And so it promotes the elephants in the population that don't have tusks. And that is a problem for them because not only do they use those tusks to defend themselves, but they're also really important in feeding. They're important in battles between, big bull elephants. So it's a critical part of their anatomy and their biology.
There we go. Great question. We're going to come back to your crew. So get another one on deck for us. We've got Madame Stephanie's class hanging out with us. Let me bring them front and center. How are we doing today, crew?
Hi.
So how much cubs can a girl lion have?
So that's a great question. So a mama lion on average will have between 2 and 4 cubs. Basically, she could probably have up to 5, but typically it's between 2 and 4, and she doesn't always raise all of them. It's a lot of work for her to hunt for them. It depends, where her pride is located, how much local prey is available. And so sometimes, sadly, we see a lioness maybe start out with 4 cubs, but by the time they're 6 months or so, there's only 2 of them. They can also be attacked by a hyena or other carnivores, or even trampled by a herd of buffalo or other animals when the pride is hunting or in different scenarios. So it's a tough job for those lionesses to bring up their young.
All right. So I have another question here. This is from a group in North Carolina, and they've clearly done some research because they noticed that you have a program for beekeeping, and they're wondering why you'd have a program for beekeeping.
So that's a great question. So when we started conserving lions, we started working on the conflict piece, right? Because that was what was getting them killed immediately. But then we realized we also have to work on their habitats. We have to work and make sure there's wild prey for them to be feeding on, not just cattle and goats and sheep, which upset people. And so we broadened our program to be looking at habitat conservation as well. And the beekeeping program is really exciting because we work with rural women to help them invest in their own beehives as groups. And they hang those hives out in the bush in a tree. And the Tanzania beekeeping policy here does not allow anyone to cut down that tree. You cannot put a farm, so you cannot plant maize or rice or beans or anything in the vicinity of that tree. And so what that does is it protects the habitat. So the elephants and the cattle and all the animals that would be grazing on the grasslands can still do what they need to do. And at the same time, the women are earning really important revenue from the sale of their honey. They're now making skin creams and all different things, candles with the byproducts from their beekeeping businesses. So very, very exciting to dovetail kind of economic empowerment of rural women with conservation goals.
All right. So I do want to share a link here. I'm going to put it in the YouTube chat, and then I will put it as well in a banner here. So we have it in a couple spots. So we do something called the Global Biodiversity Festival every May, where we talk to conservationists all over the world. And we had 4 or 5 members from Laly's team join us and talk about all the different projects and initiatives that they do work on. So if you go to our YouTube channel, this link will take you right to the showcase if you want to take a look at some of those other projects afterwards. Or if you go to our channel and search African People and Wildlife Showcase, you can find it there. Very cool. So I see some more students hanging out in front of cameras, so I think we better bring them in. So we'll go back to Miss Benoit's crew and see if they've got one for us.
How far can lion packs travel?
Oh, great question. So, of course, this depends on the pride and how many other prides there are in areas. So across Africa, lions have tremendously different, what we call home ranges. But lions on a given night or a day, but often they're moving around more at night, can walk for quite a long distance. So even, a number of miles when they're hunting. We see them move huge distances when they're looking for their prey. So, they can, move 10, 20, 30 miles in an evening if they really need to. And then sometimes you don't see them move at all. They just stay in the same area. So it really depends what's happening. It also depends on their behaviors at the time. So if it's a young male who's trying to establish a new territory, we've had young males move from, let's say, close to the Tanzanian border, southern Kenya, all the way up to Nairobi looking for new territories. So young males can move tremendous distances in search of new territories and new prides.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great question. So I see Madame Stephanie's got someone queued up and ready for us. So I'm going to bring them in.
Okay. Do peregrine falcons live in the African savanna?
Peregrine falcons. So I am not a ornithologist, but I'm going to say yes, we do have peregrine falcons here in East Africa. So we're going to do a quick fact check on that. But I am pretty sure, yes, we do have peregrine falcons.
All right. I did a quick fact check on that. You're absolutely correct. They do come up as a bird in Tanzania. And how can you not love peregrine falcons? They fastest flying bird. That dive bomb is just incredible. So very cool.
Yeah, tremendous.
All right. Let's bring in Miss Kirk sent a great question in the chat, but we'll let her ask it front and center for her crew.
Okay, we have a couple of different questions. I'll start with this one here. Does your organization work specifically on conflicts between wildlife and humans, or do you also work within wildlife versus wildlife? If you see something like that, is that something you would interfere on, or are you just primarily working humans versus wildlife?
Right now, most of our focus is on the communities and the wildlife. So we don't see as many conflicts between wildlife and wildlife. Now, you can see that we work in the Ngorongoro Conservation Area, which is a very critical part of Tanzania where the black rhino is being conserved. And sometimes there are management questions about the safety of the black rhinos and when other large carnivores like a lion or a hyena might want to take a calf. We personally, as an organization, aren't involved with that, but you can see at times the Ngorongoro Conservation Area Authority trying to protect the baby rhinos because they are so critically endangered, trying to make sure they don't get taken. So there are cases where you do have to intervene, but most cases here in Tanzania, we take as much of a hands-off approach to the management of the wildlife as possible. That's a great question.
And I think, Ms. Kirk, that poaching question is a great one too, if you want to ask that question. Oh, just grab the mute for us.
Sorry, I muted the wrong tab. You'd think I know how to do this after 3 years online. One of my students was asking, and I don't have the question directly in front of me at the moment, but essentially, poachers are poaching elephants for tusks and rhinos for their horns and such. But do they poach anything on lions for other than their flesh, or is there other things that their poachers might be going?
Yep. Sadly, it seems humans find a need for most things. So sadly, there is an increasing fear and trend of poaching of lions for their body parts, particularly and historically for their claws and for their teeth, but even more so now for their bone. So some of you may have heard about tiger bone wine that's used in Asian countries for different reasons, and at times that tiger bone wine is supplemented instead with lion bone. So this is something that's being watched very closely. It's popping up in different parts of Africa. It seems kind of regional, and there are more threats in certain areas than others. But yeah, very sad to see that the beautiful lions and are being sought after as well for their body parts.
All right. Thanks, grade sixes, for those great questions.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you're
Awesome.
studying biodiversity this year, so glad you could join us today. Very cool. Okay, give me a big wave, Madame Stephanie's class or Miss Benoit's class, if you want to sneak one more question in. We have a couple minutes left before we have to sign off today. If not, that's okay. I can grab one from the YouTube chat as well. But I do see someone in yellow, so we better go to Miss Benoit's group.
How many teeth do lions have?
Oh, that's a good question. We may have to look that one up as well. I do not know exactly how many teeth that they have. Of course, they have those big canines in front. And actually, an interesting fact about that is when we're identifying lions and we're looking at individual lions, sometimes we look at their teeth, we look at how much yellowing there is on those big front canine incisors. We look if they're chipped. Often when they're hunting, they may break off a tooth. They may actually lose a piece of it, or they may lose all of it. So we can use that as one of the clues that we use when we identify individuals. We're going to go to Joe and see what Mr. Google has to say.
Google does save the day, absolutely. So humans, we can have like 28 to 32, depending on what's going on with our wisdom teeth, and lions have 30.
Wow. Okay. So thank you to Miss Benoit's class for teaching me something today. That's really awesome. 30 teeth for the lion.
So you mentioned teeth, being away. How much tartar plaque is built up, or maybe damage to teeth. What are some other ways that you might use to identify individual lions?
So the most classic way is we look at their whisker spots. So right above the first row of whiskers on either side of the cat are these spots, and they're unique. They have them when they're born, and they'll have them throughout all of their lives. They're different to every cat, and they're different on the left and the right side. So if we get a picture of those whisker spots on both sides, we can use those to identify. We use little spots in their eyes as ways to identify them, notching on their ears. Obviously, with the males, we can also look at mane size and quality, but of course that can change over time. People sometimes ask, do we use scars? And unless it's really a long-term permanent scars, those can change and go away. So things like whisker spots and teeth and the ear notches and eye spots are all different ways that we can identify individual lions from each other.
All right. Well, I want to start out with a huge shout out to our classrooms for today, to our camera classrooms, to our YouTube classrooms. Thank you for all of those great questions. Always great to hear what you're thinking about. You're always so switched on. And then Laly, thank you for the work you're doing. Thank you for the work your team is doing. And most important of all, thank you so much for coming to be with us today and to share that with the students.
It's our pleasure. We're always happy to share about the incredible work that the team is doing here, protecting big cats. We're so grateful that you all are interested and care about it and ask so many really important questions. So that's fabulous. You can always reach out to me through Joe if you have more questions that you want to have answered. We're here hoping that you're roaring for us and we are roaring for you.
All right, awesome. There's a few classes still backstage. I'm bringing Miss Benoit's crew. If you guys want to give a big goodbye and thank you, here's Madame Stephanie.
Thank you.
Today, and we are signing off for now.